Listening to the World Cafe, I'm Talia Schlanger. Today, Bootsy Collins.
I want you to check out this intergalactic, most effective outer connection to the worldwide funk drive.
Bootsy's bass lines have been secret sauce for James Brown and Parliament Funkadelic. His Rolodex is full of funky pals, including Victor Wooten, Stanley, Clarke, and the late Bernie Worrell, who all play on Bootsy's new record. Back in the day, Bootsy and his brother were hired to back James Brown, who introduced Bootsy to a thing called The One.
First time I ever heard it was when I was playing with James Brown, and his rap was, son, I love what you're doing, but you got to give me the one. I said, oh, you mean like, bang, he said, yeah, son, that's it. I'm glad I thought of it.
If you still don't know what The One is, me neither, but Bootsy Collins will explain it to David Dye on the World Cafe.
Yeah, Bobble. Bootzilla's here. The world's only rhinestone rock star monster of a doll baby, Bobble.
Bootsy is in the house today. I'm David Dye for the World Cafe. Bootsy Collins, the larger-than-life animated bass-playing leader of the Rubber Band, has a new album, his first in 6 years, called Worldwide Funk. Bootsy grew up in Ohio and turned to the bass as his instrument because his older brother, Catfish Collins, grabbed the guitar first. The two played together in early bands, and when James Brown fired his entire band, they became his backing band, historically known as the JBs. Bootsy later moved on to play in Parliament Funkadelic with George Clinton, where he developed his top-hat-wearing, space bass-playing persona. In 1976, Bootsy launched his own career with the Rubber Band. The new album, Worldwide Funk, has guests from all musical worlds, including hip-hop, funk, and jazz. He even has a song featuring recordings with the late Bernie Worrell, keyboardist for Parliament Funkadelic and the Talking Heads, who passed away in 2016. On this tune, Bass Rigged System, he is joined by renowned bassists Stanley, Clarke, and Victor Wooten of the Flecktones, along with newcomer Alissia Benveniste. Bass Rigged System, that is on the new Worldwide Funk, as Bootsy Collins is joining us. He's got his new album. Bootsy, I've seen somebody, is it your 9th solo album, your 16th solo album? I don't even, are you keeping track?
I don't keep track. I don't keep track. I don't know which one it is, but it's the latest one. Worldwide Funk is the latest.
Bootsy, throughout this, and you know, this is something that a lot of Funketeers know already, but you are credited with space bass. Is that just your star bass, or is there something different in being the space bass man?
Space bass and the effects, taking it from ground zero all the way to outer space, and that I think that all comes from me learning on guitar first, and then changing over to bass. And when I actually put the star bass together, it had to be the space bass, because I mean that was the difference than any and all the other basses that were out there. As I had to have a space bass because I didn't want it to sound like a regular bass. Yeah.
Your brother played guitar, and is that why you started playing? Catfish plays guitar, so
yeah, he plays guitar, and I always wanted to be in his band. So he's like 8 years older than I, and when I was 9 years old, I was looking up to him and watching every move he made, and him practicing, and so I wanted to do those things. And so finally, I worked my way up, by paper route, and to get a guitar, $29 guitar. So he needed a bass player. So there you go. I need 4 bass strings. I took that guitar and put them 4 strings on it, and I've been a bass player ever since.
Wow. Were there? I mean, you were looking up to him as a guitarist, but were there bass players you listened to back then?
Well, I started to. Yeah, definitely. It was James Jamerson was the number one for me back in the day. James Jamerson and Jocko. They were definitely the bass players that influenced me. Actually, Willie Winks too.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, he had a few things out, or he played on a few things that every bass player had to know. They had bass solos in them, and it wasn't nothing but a few. It wasn't nothing but a few of them that was, that was really popping. But every bass player learned those solos, and I gave it a shot, but I don't think I was dead on it. So I had to go space bass on him.
Yeah. Bootsy Collins is our guest, and we're listening to music from Worldwide Funk, the new album, and we wanted to talk a little bit about a track that you have on here, which it's touching, and it's amazing that you could put it together. And it's one of your partners in crime forever, which is Bernie Worrell. You do this salute to Bernie on here. Can you talk a little bit about how you put it together? Because these are not you weren't playing live in the studio with him.
Well, actually, I did play live when we recorded it, because it wasn't recorded like after he was gone. We recorded that. I think it was like 2002 or 2004, around in there.
Okay.
And so I got tracks that Bernie and I have done for years. I mean, that we never did nothing with. And so I went back and looked through the songs, and unfinished songs, because they weren't songs yet. And that particular one spoke to me. It sounded like what Bernie would say or wanted to say to the public. And when I played it, it was like, man, this got to go on the album. Everybody started vibing in like Bernie's talking to us. And so we had to just go ahead and finish that one, because I really felt his spirit. And plus, education for the nation. I wanted to make sure people don't forget who Bernie is, what he represented, and he was a true, not only a genius musician and a person.
Can you talk a little bit about that? Because you and he seem to have this special position in P-Funk, and you got to work a lot together, right? I mean, you really bonded.
Oh, yeah. Well, I tell you, me coming from the James Brown School, where even a leader didn't have no education on, say, like music and music theory, but he had the other part of it, that most people can't learn. You have to be born with that. And so I came from that side, where I didn't know nothing about reading music or music theory or none of that. And all the things I didn't have, Bernie had. And so that was a complete marriage. And he had so much smarts about music, he would take my wrong stuff and make it sound like I did it on purpose. That's why we were a team. I mean, that's something that's just magic. Some things just can't be explained.
Well, let's listen to it. Let's have that. Let's have that. Let's channel the magic. This is a salute to Bernie with Bernie Worrell, the late Bernie Worrell, and our guest today, Bootsy Collins.
Times are hard and friends are few. Your sacred loved ones come back to you. It's hard to appreciate what you got when you got it, until they call you and say, I have it party. Bernie, please don't go. Hey, Bernie, we need you on the show. 'Cause you're the key to the P-Funk, baby.
A salute to Bernie, yeah. Well, we're hanging with Bootsy today. Bootsy, I've got some important questions here, and one of them is, I want you to talk about the one. On this album, you have a written about piece called "My Journey to Find the One," and can you tell me when the one came into your life and kind of place it? I mean, it's become a spiritual thing, but it was a musical thing, I think.
Yes. Well, actually, where I got it from was, first time I ever heard it was when I was playing with James Brown, and because I had just stopped playing guitar and bass. You know, I was starting to try to learn how to play bass. Didn't know what the meaning of playing bass was. I just wanted to play with my brother, Catfish. Once I got to do that, I forgot all about it. I had to learn how to play bass. It was another animal. So when we got with James Brown, it was like, you know, his rap was, son, I love what you're doing. Oh, yeah, you playing a lot of stuff, son, but you got to give me the one. And then he explained it. He was like, you know, well, you got to, every 4 bars, you hit that one. You hit that one. It's like, 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I said, oh, you mean like, bang, he said, yeah, son, that's it. I'm glad I thought of it. So that's where I learned the one, what he meant by the one. And if you listen to, you know, the stuff that he was recording and, you know, just take it from there on up into George, you know, when I joined George, I took the one meaning from what James had explained to me over to George's camp, Funkadelic, Parliament. But, you know, I found out that George didn't know what the one was either. So I had to explain it to him, you know. But George took the one and made it gospel. He made it P-Funk gospel by emphasizing even more so than what James Brown had us doing.
Bootsy Collins is our guest, and he's taking us to school about the one, and we're listening to music from Worldwide Funk, the new album. You know, you're not supposed to be getting to the place where you are in life and be doing things that are this creative, Bootsy. I'm joking, but you really did it.
Well, you know, to me, it's about how did a long-haired sucker like me get in this business and still here? And I look back, and it was like 1967, 1968, James Brown took us off the street and put us, you know, in the studio, in the band. And from there, you know, that was enough motivation right there to keep me going, at least into this bar, you know. And so when I looked at that, and I looked at George, like, allowing me to go in the studio and record. This is, you know, today it's like taken so for granted, like things like that. But back then, it was like for these cats to, you know, think I was somebody to give me studio time, you know, so I can go in there. And I didn't know what I was doing, you know, but to experiment, you know, and that to me is what creative kids want today. They want to be able to be creative. And instead of us allowing them to create, we're confusing them, you know, and tying them up. They're getting locked bile, you know. they constipated. Once you let it all out, then you can let the one in. This is what I'm feeling. This is what I'm vibing.
Bootsy.
Yeah.
You got it. We're going to do have a little therapy as we go out here, but thank you. This is therapy. This is our guest, Bootsy Collins.
All right. Thank you, man.
Therapy from Bootsy Collins' new album called Worldwide Funk. Thank you so much to Bootsy Collins and to David Dye for hosting that interview. That was so much fun. You're listening to The World Cafe.